MarcelloMania. Been a little while. Life gets busy. Whatever. Episode 8. Was going to go Antoine Walker. Not so good. Episode Carl Yastrzemski. Sox fans, Bring it on Ryan Logan. We got to get some reaction about Brian Kelly, all the craziness that's happened in college football. Hit on a little bit of baseball, preview the college football weekend, maybe some Giants thoughts, some NFL thoughts, but we're getting this thing going again. All right, we're bringing MarcelloMania back, and good timing. We got a big-time Notre Dame fan, Ryan Logan. We're coming on the heels of all the Brian Kelly. There's some craziness with Lincoln Riley, all that kind of stuff. I was curious to get a Notre Dame fan's perspective. So first of all, appreciate you joining me. And just what was your initial reaction when all this went down?
Yeah, bud. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed the show. God, really the initial reaction, I walked into the door after getting off of work on Monday and got a text from my brother saying Brian Kelly to LSU, question mark, exclamation. I was like, and I had no clue what he was talking about. I had never thought that Brian Kelly would be leaving Notre Dame to go to another Power 5 school. I mean, yeah, I think the immediate reaction was just shocked. I thought he was joking with me. I thought we were on April 1st already. Haven't gotten to Christmas yet. So that's the initial reaction.
Dude, it's crazy because, and these things are happening behind the scenes and then it breaks. But then the way it unfolded, and he's texting his players, and then like the 7 a.m. meeting, it's just not a good look. I've never been a Notre Dame fan, so maybe that's why I wasn't a Brian Kelly fan. But I don't know. Like I've always kind of liked pulling for LSU, but I don't like Brian Kelly, so I don't know if I can do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've spent plenty of Saturdays together, and you see how passionate I am about Notre Dame. And I don't know if I disliked him. There never was a real vibe of like, yeah, he's our guy, and I can back him up. And I know we'll get into Marcus Freeman later, but like that guy he really jacks me up and like makes me want to go play football.
Yeah.
And, I didn't play football. I played football. And I don't think that football would be the thing I could do right now. But like he gets you jacked up. Brian Kelly didn't give you those sorts of vibes, but yeah, I don't know. Brian Kelly is his own personality, and he's going to do what he's going to do. And he came to us from Cincinnati doing what he did, and he's doing it again to us. So you can't be too shocked with it.
It is crazy though, like, because it's been 12 years. I mean, when he first went there, first it looked like he might get fired early, and then it was like, all right, he started turning it around. So, I mean, in a sense, obviously, they haven't won a national championship, but he's gotten them to the brink. I mean, overall, would you say it's a successful, like, I don't know if you call it a reign or whatever, tenure there, I should say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being a Notre Dame fan back when we were in high school, you didn't tell people because it was you were proud of. And, the biggest memory I have of being a pre-Brian Kelly fan was, the heartbreak that you always have playing USC in the Bush. I think I cried all night after that. We had them on the brink and let them off the hook. And that was typical Notre Dame. And he did instill a culture that brought them back to the forefront. And really, as much as people want to hate on us and say, that Notre Dame is a thing of the past, I don't think that's true. And I don't think that's what really people think. They just hate that we get the notoriety because of the past. I think going forward, this is a different program because of Brian Kelly. And I do appreciate that. So yeah, there's a lot of things to be given to Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's tough. You're gonna have that fan's perspective. The way he left is it's tough too, because it kind of like is the business of it, which stinks. But he definitely did elevate that program, and there was probably some years where Notre Dame got their notoriety, and then there was others. It's just this is a good team that can really make a run at it. So he had a lot of years, especially the last 4 or 5 years. They were in the mix a whole lot. And there's a lot of different directions we could go. You mentioned his name though, Marcus Freeman. I didn't know a ton about him. I've been trying to read up some stories the last couple of days, and I've been hearing some rumors. But you're pretty happy with the hiring of Freeman?
What really made me happy about it, and I never really was a Twitter guy until Monday night when you get all the news that quickly on Twitter. So this past few days, I've been a big Twitter guy, and reading all the reports and the thoughts about Marcus Freeman from past players, to include guys like Joe Theismann, Jerome Bettis, those sorts of people that have been around Notre Dame and the culture. that gives you a lot of optimism about Marcus Freeman. And then to see the way he interacts with the recruits, the ones that are in our next year top 4 class, and then the following year top 2 class, how much they rallied around him and how much they wanted him to be the head coach, that has to bring optimism to the Notre Dame program. And he really does give you, I think he knows his X's and O's, but he also can give you, the juice. You bring your own juice. I think he brings the juice, and he'll bring his players with juice.
And that's everything that I've kind of read the last couple of days. Again, I didn't know a ton about him. I think he was on Fickle's staff at Cincinnati last year, and then he came to Notre Dame. Really, really good defenses the last couple of years. And yeah, I've heard he's kind of like a player's coach in a sense that he just clicks with them, and he's a great recruiter. And coaching is super important. We know college athletics. I mean, more than half the battle is recruiting and what kind of guys you can get. And speaking of Notre Dame, probably their biggest rival over the years, USC just got a new coach. Now we won't know as much depth, because you're a Notre Dame fan, so you can't dive into as much. What do you think about the Lincoln Riley move going from OU to Southern Cal?
I don't think it's that surprising. I think Oklahoma's always been up there, but like USC, like Notre Dame, has the past that really elevates them. But they also, I know they've been off for the last 10 years, but like they have the recruiting hotbed. They are in the mix of it, and they have the past success that I think it's really not a surprising move. I don't know if Oklahoma has quite the culture that USC.
I've been to Norman once. I'm guessing Southern Cal is a little cooler.
I'm sure it's a little warmer, but
yeah.
I don't know if it's warm or not. But the weather is certainly better in Southern Cal. I don't know. Is the Coliseum on their campus?
I think it's pretty close by. I don't think it's on their campus. The one thing with him, I just think he should have gotten more. He really didn't get a lot out of his deal. I mean, like
not at all.
Unreal. I mean, that's like Roger Goodell territory when it's like, yeah, I get that whenever I want. Like,
yeah,
you can take care of my houses for me, plural. I mean, so it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think Lincoln Riley's a really good coach, but he probably wanted to stay out of the SEC. He's gonna do really well, I think, out there because, like Freeman, everyone says how good of a recruiter he is. So, but I mean, Notre Dame the last 10 years is way more relevant than USC. But I think hopefully Freeman for you guys. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but if they're in, it's kind of like Yankees in baseball, Duke in basketball. If they're in the mix, people watch. So, I think Notre Dame's going to be pretty solid. And then I think USC is going to be on the climb with Lincoln Riley because, there's some good teams out there, but it's not the depth you would face in the SEC.
Right. I think he's already pulling recruits from Oklahoma, and I'm sure he'll start pulling it from other people that have Southern Cal recruits already locked in. It's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of months. I guess when the first signing period is coming up soon. And really, if we want to get back to the whole Brian Kelly thing, I think we need to address the genesis of the problem is really the NCAA with this new the signing period. And coaches just have to bail. They have to go in order, if they want to have success at the next school, they just have to go. And that's the problem, really.
No, it's tough. That's a whole nother whole series on that. I mean, the only good thing now from a player side is I guess they have a little bit more freedom to come and go, the NIL. So there's definitely from the player side of things. In the past, it was like the coach could do whatever they want. They were just kind of stuck there. So
right.
We'll stick with college football, though. We're just going to hit on this is championship weekend, setting up for what should be what will be the college football playoff. Now, there's a sneaky Friday night game, Oregon and Utah.
Right.
Know how much you've seen. I've seen a little bit of both of these teams. You have, I don't have a ton of insight on either team. I got to think Oregon's going to get done, but Utah's ranked higher. I think they're 14. Oregon's 19. What do you know about that game?
Yeah, I guess those are the games we're usually all are on by the time we're in bed. But I think Utah's already done it once, right?
Yeah.
Tough to beat somebody twice in a row. I don't watch much of those, but if Zach's around, I'm certainly watching Oregon.
Yeah, we need to text the Oregon insider.
Right. Pull that guy up. He'll give you all the inside knowledge you want on Oregon. But, I was doing some things on that predictor, the playoff predictor, and they was asking about, games, and you click in Oregon. They're actually the underdog, which is a bit of a surprise to me, although they did lose already. But I think that was the game at Utah. It was surprised to see Utah up there, just been sneaky all season.
they're always a solid program, but to be top 15 again, I think they're 14th right now, and I think Oregon's sitting at 19. That's a good Friday night because you got Thursday night football. This is Thursday as we're recorded, so you got some NFL, some games tonight, and then the Friday's kind of that gap, and then Saturday you get the full slate rolls into. Right. So nice little Friday night game tomorrow. If you're sitting around, you want something to watch. Saturday, obviously the big day. Cincinnati, all they got to do is win, and they got to be in. They're facing Houston. I got to think the Bearcats get it done, though.
I don't know, man.
You don't think so?
You would think so, but Houston's on an 11-game winning streak. I think they lost their opener, and I don't remember who it was against, but they've won 11 in a row. And I think Cincinnati's really the one playing with all the pressure. I think Houston comes out and plays free and gives them a real run for their money.
I hope just from watching that they give them a run for their money, but I do think you hit it. I mean, Cincinnati has to be feeling the pressure because they have to be perfect or they're not getting in, and it would be a shame. But no, I think you make a great point there. I mean, Houston can play free, and we'll see what happens. I mean, that should be a good one. Michigan, Iowa. That was kind of a crazy weekend. You have Michigan for the first time in forever beating Ohio State, and then Iowa catching a break with Wisconsin, Minnesota to get in. And I mean, who would have thought going into the weekend this was going to be your Big Ten championship matchup? Do you think Michigan keeps that momentum rolling, or do you think Iowa's got enough?
Again, I think that Michigan's coming off the biggest win that those guys have ever seen. Last 10 years, maybe, I don't know. So they could be. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one, and I think Iowa. They might overlook Iowa. Iowa started out the season and was up to number 2, I think, at one point, and had a roll going. Lost a couple games to some teams that are no good. I think they lost to Purdue and
I think Penn State. I think they were both top 10 at the time.
Yeah,
it was the one that kind of flipped Iowa's season. I mean, obviously they didn't lose out or anything, but yeah, they were up there. I mean, they're a strong team. You got to account for.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised to see Iowa win, given that Michigan riding a high and could be overlooking, looking at the playoffs. This is the first time they've seen the college football playoff. So it wouldn't surprise me.
That would be I say typical Michigan, I followed them, but just they finally get over the hump. And then Iowa is a good team, so it wouldn't be a bad loss, but you kind of feel like they're riding that momentum. I'm going to go with Michigan. But I do think Iowa is a strong program. I think they're going to give them a game. I got some friends in Iowa, so they won't be happy. I got some neighbors that are Iowa natives, so they won't. Yeah. But I guess we can talk about the ACC championship. We'll hit on it real quick. Pittsburgh, Wake Forest. I mean, I'm going with Pitt because of the quarterback, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, Pitt's got a great gunslinger, but I do like the Wake Forest offense. They lost a couple weird ones too, to UNC, I think, and then but they lost to Clemson. That's not too weird, but the UNC one, man, they ended up 6-6, and for them to drop the ball against to UNC has been interesting.
And I'm sure next year Clemson will probably be back, but it was so funny to me, and I don't mind Clemson, but the headline, it was I forget exactly, but it was Clemson stuns or Clemson upsets Wake Forest. Is how far have they fallen?
Right, where are we? The upside down? I mean, God.
Yeah. I was I cannot believe that's a headline, and it was at Clemson too, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
Again, Wake's got a really good team. I'm going Pitt just because of the quarterback situation. Now, the one that I think most neutral fans are going to be watching is probably the SEC championship. Sure. Georgia, Alabama. I mean, Georgia's been a wagon, but Bama just does Bama things, unfortunately. Do you think Bama can pull the upset, or do you think Georgia's going to run the table here?
Man, that Georgia defense, how many points do they get? We got to calculate their points off the entire season. Have we hit double digits yet? I mean, those guys, unreal. It's crazy. But I think they're just going to continue to do what they do. The way Auburn's looked, at least last weekend, and I think a couple weeks before, it's just it doesn't give you hope that they're going to do it, but they do have the GOAT on their side, and I'm sure he's probably been scheming every minute of every day the last week, trying to figure out what's going on.
And you got to think, win or lose, I just feel like Bama always is going to get in the playoff. So then if they see Georgia again, Georgia doesn't want to see them again, whether they beat them in the SEC championship or not. It's not a team they want to see. I think I mean, I think that's going to be a fantastic game. I mean, I assume it's typically being played in Atlanta where it usually is, but Bama fans are going to travel. They always do. I'm going with Georgia just to keep it going, just because their defense has been unbelievable. They've kind of known where they're at, but who would be surprised if Nick Saban and Alabama came in and
Yeah.
got the W?
Yeah. I mean, it's a 6.5-point favorite. That's the real question. Do you think that they can cover the spread?
I might take Bama there. I mean, pretty solid. I mean, that's a pretty good spread. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting. That could be the juicier question.
Right. Right. I mean, can Alabama score more than one touchdown against that defense?
I thought for sure. I mean, you got to give Alabama credit, but I thought for sure Auburn had it last week. And then as soon as they tied it, I was like, Auburn's losing this game.
I was up in the stands at the Tech UVA game and watching on the phone, and so many people in one little area that the cell service is a little spotty. And I saw there was the 4th down stop with like 2 minutes and some change left, maybe 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I thought, wow, they did it. It's over. Like Bama's done. Notre Dame's gotten a better pass now to the national championship. And I'm walking out of the game and I look and it's now overtime. Get to the bar, and they've now won it in quadruple overtime. Where it was like, that's Nick Saban stuff for you.
Yeah, I mean, that one was just a classic. I mean, 2 losses, they're probably not going to make it, but 1 loss, if they lose an SEC championship, people look at that differently. That was just a Nick Saban game.
Yeah.
And you're a guy that I could talk with a lot of different topics with. I know we're going to bring you back when it comes to golf. I know you don't like this hat, but you're a Yankees fan. So I'm just curious, coming off last season, what's the Yankees, in your opinion, what do they need to address? Is it pitching? Is it bullpen? Is it lineup? What do you think they need?
I think the obvious answer is pitching. I think you got the established number one in Garrett Cole, although he didn't. Fortunately for you, didn't show up in the playoffs. But I think that's the obvious answer. But really, like if you look at how the season played out, they did a lot of things well. I mean, they hit well. They had, I think, a top 10 batting average in major leagues. They had a great bullpen. And when they get to the playoffs in these big games, it just doesn't show up. So I'm not convinced that Aaron Boone's the guy. I love Aaron Boone. My first, big kid memory of baseball being Aaron Bleeping Boone. So I love the guy, but I just don't know if he, like Marcus Freeman, can bring the juice for these big games and gets these guys ready. They did everything well most of the regular season and just don't show up in the big spots. Yeah,
and Giancarlo Stanton had an unreal year last year for you. I mean, from the Red Sox side of things, we were so up and down. Just to knock the Yankees out, we'll take that. Somehow we got by the Rays, and then they teased me thinking they had a real shot, and they did not. Red Sox desperately need bullpen. Their bullpen is atrocious. I mean, they need, like a lot of teams, they need to address a few things, but from the Red Sox side of things, they need bullpen help. I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah, and you brought JBJ back.
Yeah, that's an interesting move. I will say Renfroe played well defensively. I think he led the AL in assists, but JBJ does erase a lot of extra base hits, and he can't hit it all. He's probably about 240. He's making $12 million, so that's a little shaky. But I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see how that one plays out. I'm not mad. The thing, I'm just always going to be bitter because you had Betts, you had Bradley, and you had Benintendi. And I just think they didn't get any value for any of them. I mean, I think at least 2 of them should still be there. I mean, if you want to count Jackie Bradley as being back, but I think the writing was on the wall. He was going to sign somewhere else. They could have traded him when they were out of contention, got some prospects. They didn't. I think they undersold on Mookie Betts, and then Benintendi was coming off his worst year, and they traded him. So I'm just always going to be frustrated no matter what happens with the outfield, not having at least a couple of those guys, and then the value that they didn't get in return. But who knows? Baseball's in the lockout. I think they'll figure it out. I mean, have they released the MVP? I mean, they were rolling out these postseason awards at the most random times, like Sunday, like NFL football. No one's watching like who's getting the Gold Glove. I don't understand what baseball does sometimes.
A Gold Glove every 10 minutes, like, oh, here we are, another Gold Glove. Yeah, I think they gave didn't they give the I just could have sworn that the MVP was released.
No, I was kidding. They're all.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, You can't. I'm not. Can't catch
No,
it.
it was just. I mean, the way they were rolling him out, I would literally wake up like going to work Monday, and then
Yeah.
like my notification like so and so won like the Silver Slugger. I was like, what are they doing? The season was like forever ago. Not.
Right.
I mean, in today's world, it flies by.
Yeah.
And you're a New York guy, so I got to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Giants where they're at now? I, is Daniel Jones that guy? What do you think?
I mean, they're like a. I don't know. They play football like they're drunk sometimes, and like they can show up and beat and contend with a lot of people. Almost beat the Chiefs, and I know they were at a shaky point in their season, but stick it to the Chiefs and then and hang. But then they can go lose to uh, football team, and again they're on a run now, but. I don't know. It's hard to see where this team is going, and I think Gettleman's probably at the end of his rope, from what I can hear. So I think we'll probably be seeing another GM come in and take them in another direction. Does that mean drafting another quarterback? I don't know. I mean, Daniel, you see a lot of flashes of things that he can do, but like that interception was the last weekend where he threw it so bad he hit one of the bucks, and then another buck caught it, and there's not a giant around. Sometimes he just went on a Saturday night bender and showed up on Sunday and is asked to throw a football.
Yeah, I mean, not being a Giants fan, he doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. He's not the worst quarterback you're ever going to throw out there. And, as a casual fan, he'll rip off those big runs. He'll have some good games. But, yeah, I don't know. I think average when I think of him. But who knows? I mean, Josh Allen took a couple years to develop. I don't think he's going to be Josh Allen, but I don't know. I wanted to get your perspective. It's so tough too, because you're kind of stuck in that ground, I think you alluded to. Do we draft somebody else? Like, what do we do in a year or two? And if you draft someone, unless it's high, they're probably not going to start right away. So then you're a year away. It's just the fandom of always thinking of, unless you have a quarterback, like
right.
Toughest thing.
And it's tough to evaluate them again because, they haven't really had the offensive line the past few years. And then you get to this year and you think, okay, we got all these weapons. You got Tony and Rudolph and who's the guy from Galladay. And then all these guys get injured and Saquon's coming back and he hasn't looked the same. So it's really hard to evaluate Daniel based off of, really not having much around him. And some would argue that, if he's a real playmaker, he elevates the other people around him. And that's a fair argument. But I don't know. It's hard to see. You see the flashes and then you see the moments. And
yeah. No, it's interesting. And it's been a few episodes, but I had a friend of mine who's a Washington football team fan on this. And at the time, I don't think Fitzpatrick was hurt. We did this preseason.
Yeah.
I like Fitzpatrick, but from my perspective, I spoiled as a Patriots fan, but I was like, why not just see what Heineke's got? Now, injury forced that to happen. I wasn't predicting that. I'm not that smart, but I'm just sitting back. What Fitzpatrick is. He's going to win you some games. He's going to lose you some games. See what the ceiling is with a guy like Heineke. I mean, Daniel Jones has got to be kind of short on the rope, maybe another year, but after a certain point, you kind of get a ceiling. I mean, I thought Sam Darnold was just stuck in the Jets. Now he's down in Carolina, and he looks like he's just doesn't have it.
Yeah, he had flashes at the beginning and thought, well, it was the Jets. And then it wasn't the Jets. It was USC. I'm just kidding. That was Notre Dame. Yeah, so I don't know. It is interesting, but I don't know. We'll see. I hope that the Giants can build more around him. And their defense looks great, but or not great. We won't say great, but they look, decent. They can keep it. They can't score points. And that's really that's the problem.
So we'll stick in the NFC East. We're not going to go too crazy, but I got to ask you, who do you think? I mean, you think Dallas is going to hold on the division, or I don't think Philly's got enough to sneak up. Washington, as you mentioned, though, is on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, what are they, 5-7 now? And
yeah, it's crazy.
And we got Dallas at 7-4, maybe.
I think they did a graphic on ESPN. It was like the Seahawks and the Lions were the only two teams in the hunt.
we made it to the hunt after beating the Eagles last week, so that's always good. Love that. Yeah, I don't see how the Cowboys really fall apart down the stretch. They got Gallup back, and he's a player too, and they haven't had him the last 5 or 6, 8 weeks, and
Yeah.
so they're only getting healthier and getting better, and they have to be able to hang on to the lead in the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of America was pretty happy last Thursday when they lost. It was a good little Thanksgiving gift for
Yeah.
non-Cowboys fans, even though they're everywhere. But yeah, they're getting healthy. I mean, Cooper missed some time. Zeke's getting a little healthier. I mean, I still don't think, they might get a 2 or 3 seed, but I still don't think they're the real deal in terms of, they might get to the NFC Championship, which is good, but I don't think they're gonna get any further than that. Who knows? But this year, I will say, every week, at least for the last month and a half, whatever team I thought was going to win that day, it was like it's just been week to week. With the exception of maybe the Titans, and they lost, but they're really banged up. I mean, it's been a pretty even up and down NFL season.
Right. I mean, I think that's can be said about all levels of football. I mean, look at how tight this playoff race is for college football, and like look at the Chargers. I mean,
yeah.
What happened to them? They were like the proverbial favorite in the AFC, and then now they can't beat whoever they lost to last week, who's garbage.
I think it was Denver, and they got smoked pretty much.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, Denver. But no, I thought we played the Chargers, the Patriots. I say we played them last year, and kind of we crushed them. It was like 40-something-7. And then we had to play in LA a few weeks ago. And, I thought the Patriots were on the rise. I didn't think they'd rip off 6 straight like they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was like, Herbert in LA, it's going to be tough. And they've just been kind of a disappointing team. So, and the Rams have been kind of upside down the last few weeks. I mean, I guess it sets up for a good next month and a half, getting towards the playoff chase. I mean, it's crazy already, week 12 or 13, whatever we're in.
Yeah, have the Rams won since they got Von Miller and Odell now?
I don't think so. I don't think they have.
They made the big splashes at the trades, and like they haven't won.
Yeah, and you got to wonder. I mean, Odell seems like he's just not worth the risk now. I mean, eventually maybe he'll fit into a team, but it's not fair to blame it all on him. He probably doesn't even know the offense yet. But it's
right.
Not to draw that line, like he gets there, then they just lose a couple.
Right. I mean, it all goes back to the boat, the before the Green Bay game, right? The boat game.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to fit in since.
Man, speaking of Green Bay, they're going to be tough. I mean, Rodgers is battling some injuries, but they finally get to the bye. They've had a tough schedule, so they've gotten through the bulk of it. They're probably going to be a 2 seed at worst. So home field is huge. I mean, I know Tampa went in last year and they beat them in Green Bay. That's going to be really tough to do twice, for anybody. And you put yourself there, enough chances. Rodgers really hasn't gotten there for the overrated Packers fans that are listening and watching. I got a couple of good buddies. He's won 1 NFC championship. I like to remind him that. But I mean, if they get home field advantage, I think they got to be the favorite in the NFC right now.
Yeah, talk about a good time for a bye with Aaron Rodgers dealing with his toe issues.
Yeah.
Get an extra week to get healthy and continue your role. It'll be a good battle with him in Arizona once Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins get back and start playing again and are healthy. It'll be a good battle with those guys. No,
I mean, you bring up a great point and I just did it there. I kind of forgot about Arizona in a sense. I mean, they're winning games without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're 9-2 right now, so they're going to be in a really good spot. And if they don't have to travel to a place like Lambeau, that's huge. So that's going to be, you figure Tampa's going to be there. And the AFC, there's a lot of teams that could get. I mean, the Chiefs always, the Ravens look good. People are talking up the Patriots. The Bills are going to be tough. They got the Monday night game. We'll talk more in a month and see where we're at.
I mean, you're also leaving out the 1 seed, the Ravens, and they just don't feel like a 1 seed. AFC team is the Ravens, and they just don't feel it. You forgot
they try to lose.
The 1 seed.
They try to lose every week. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Lamar is so dynamic, and then he throws into triple coverage, and you're just kind of like shaking your head.
Yeah. He just goes and runs around and runs. He does the Madden play where you just like run backward, run around, run to one side of the field, hope the guy's open, and then just chuck it as far as like the 2 to Mark Andrews. How does that happen?
Just crazy. And it was pass interference on the one, and he still hauls it in for a catch.
Right.
I mean, 4 turnovers. I mean, if you're a glass half full guy and you're a Ravens fan, you're like, all right, we're playing bad and we're still pulling out all these wins. If you're
Right.
back, you're like, they can't keep winning like this. There's just like someone's gonna get them eventually. But
Yeah.
I guess it's more fun as a if you're an NFC fan, you're like, let's just see what the AFC is, because the Bills came back down to earth.
Right.
Titans look really, really good. And the Titans, I think, are going to get healthy. I know they just had a loss, but Julio's been out. Brown's been out. Derrick Henry, think he'll be back at the end of the year. So that's going to be a different team if they can get some of those guys back down the stretch.
My fantasy team sure hopes he comes back. Like one more point on the Ravens, you said how bad they're playing. Like, let's talk about their running back room. Can we go through the running backs that have played for them this year? Because it's a wide, like, Pro Bowlers left and right.
Yeah.
Once their guys went down, whoever they had, Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, like,
Yeah.
these guys are their fifth and sixth strings. I mean, wild.
I'm guessing in like 3 weeks, Adrian Peterson will be on
Probably
the Ravens, because he just signed with the Seahawks. I mean, he's starting to go through the teams too. I was surprised that his stint was short in Tennessee. Well, for those who are listening, watching, if you couldn't tell, as I mentioned, I could talk about a lot of topics with Ryan. We're going to get him on for some golf. I mean, that's going to be right up his alley. That's really, I mean, he knows a lot of things, but I'm going to get you on for a golf episode. It'll be Masters season before we know it, man. I appreciate you joining me, though.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to maybe a live Masters episode sometime.
Oh, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on, buddy. It was a pleasure seeing you, bud.
Definitely.